welcome. Are you ready to start writing? Let's get right to it.
You are writing a story and planning characters. How can we describe characters in a way that makes them less generic? In this video, we will take a look at quirks and habits and see how to make your characters stand out. It could also help you to notice your own quirks and what you find appealing in others. Let's think about idiosyncrasies, those individual behaviors or thoughts that each person has. And you will see that the more you think about it, the more you can come up with. For example, a person might wear their watch on the wrong wrist. You might know someone who repeatedly checks the locks. Another person might have a habit of chewing pencils or pens. And there's always that guy or girl who has to walk while talking on the phone. You might have a friend who makes victory gestures when they have achieved a goal. And what about the way this girl is eating her chocolate? Would it irritate or charm you? And how do you drink a glass of water? Sitting, standing, with your small finger in the air? Now, think about your quirks. What funny little things does your family notice about you? Are you always late and struggle to get up in the morning? Or are you a workaholic, never paying attention to what other people are saying? Do you look for monsters under your bed at night? Or do you insist on having all the windows open, or none at all? Think about specific foods that you absolutely love or hate. Think about a crowd of people in a city. You don't know them or really care about their lives. What little facts or details would make you curious about them? And what would make your character stand out in a crowd? What would make them memorable? Think about when you meet someone for the first time. What makes an impression on you? Is it their clothing, that they are impeccably neat or stylish? Or do they look grubby and unkempt? Do you notice hair color or the way a person walks into a room? We can see if they are confident in movements and gestures or if they are more hesitant. And is the character's quirk attractive or repellent? I watched a contestant on a quiz show, and every time he spoke, he had a half smile and looked upward. It was very charming, but perhaps a person who cleans their fingernails while you talk to them is less appealing. And sometimes people may think their behaviors are attractive, but they are irritating. Think of classic heroes and villains in books and movies. Alan Rickman made the Sheriff of Nottingham almost more attractive than Kevin Costner as Robin Hood. His villainous sayings, tone, and sarcasm were attractive and magnetic. Then there are the Bond villains who talk softly but always come up with terrifying ways to dispose of their enemies while stroking a cat. Bond himself is not a traditional hero because he's quite naughty and mischievous and often breaks the rules. Perhaps your cloaked villain has a penchant for collecting butterflies, and maybe your valiant knight stutters and can't talk to beautiful ladies. It's a little easier to think of a character's quirks in terms of appearance. Does he always wear his hair in a side path, or pick out bow ties? Or does she use her stilettos as a fashion statement and a weapon? Does your villain always wear white suits or choose branded clothing? In the movie Face Off, Nicolas Cage and John Travolta changed identities as hero and villain. Expressions and behaviors had to change, so it affected their behavior and the way they spoke. Your character's quirks can come across in the language he chooses. He might often use slang or speak very formally. He could tell jokes or be expressionless. You probably know friends who have favorite words that they repeat all the time. For some characters, swearing is a part of their vocabulary, while others use quotations from famous people. Some characters only talk loudly, and others are quiet. Think of the tone of voice. Is it deep or high pitched? You could choose to give your character one or two mannerisms that they repeat. Some of these are nervous habits or just ways that people try to stay focused on a task. It can show concentration or anxiety, but each quirk adds to the individuality of a character. How do we know what quirk to choose for a character, and how does it affect the story? In daily life, a writer needs to become a detective or spy, noticing details about people and even jotting down notes or ideas. You see a woman in a supermarket who pushes her hair behind her ears and frowns every time she looks at her phone, or a man who stares at the ceiling and checks his pockets. In conversations, ask people about their hobbies. They could be unusual or unexpected, like the football player who practiced the trumpet, or a comedian learning to juggle. Everyone's routine is different, and this helps you to build a unique profile of a character. Think about how you wake up in the morning. Are you bustling about like an Energizer bunny, or can you barely drag yourself out of the covers? Do you have a favorite breakfast and treats that you look forward to in the day? Ask your friends about their routines and see how they compare. We make so many choices every day, from clothing to makeup and even friends or relationships, and each choice says something about us, what we love or hate. Think about specific choices your character makes in foods he eats, stores he goes to, or clothing he wears. Think about people he chooses to associate with and how that might affect his development in your story in a positive or negative way. The way a character interacts with others shows us a lot about them. Does the person use humor to entertain or to persecute and humiliate others? Does he like to belittle people by making fun of them, breaking down their self esteem? Or does he build others up, making himself the target of humor? Some people are skilled storytellers and can entertain groups of people with funny anecdotes or tall tales that go on forever. Is your character something of a raconteur with a talent for telling stories? Or is he malicious and vengeful like Loki? Does he enjoy playing pranks? When quirks are exaggerated to such an extent that they become quite grotesque, we can say they are caricatures. This often happens to politicians who are depicted as cartoon images, saying and doing foolish things. But there are interesting examples in literature. Charles Dickens' characters like Mr. Chadband, Daniel Quilp, Scrooge, and Fagin are examples. They became so well known. A person can be referred to as being a Scrooge instead of a miser because of that character's failing in the story. And Mr. Chadband is described in quite a repulsive way. Charles Dickens wrote, Mr. Chadband is a large, yellow man with a fat smile and a general appearance of having a good deal of train oil in his system. For your task, think of your hero and villain from a different perspective. Try to give them quirks that are both appealing and repellent. Think of things that could be cute and attractive, as well as nasty or disconcerting. For example, maybe your hero winks whenever he grins, or paces while he thinks, and maybe he only ever eats cornflakes for breakfast. Perhaps he has to keep checking locks and talks to himself, and he might be a bit of a perfectionist. Your villain possibly tells funny stories that are very entertaining. He's obsessed with fitness, always lifting weights, and likes to drive supercars. But he's a compulsive liar who whistles off key and has a phobia about dogs. Practice your writing every day. It's a workout for your brain. You can do it, and you will improve. If you would like more writing tips and advice, you can follow my Substack blog, or you can find me on Patreon for conversation, dialogue, and English language. And then look on Facebook and Instagram for updates. Take a look at my books on Amazon. They are available as ebooks or paperback. Thank you.